It's missing something. I got it. Hold on.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cold Open Cup Grand Finals Showcase. There are 3 teams left in this tournament. So, today we're going to reveal the battlefield they're going to be playing in. My name is Dynascape, and today I'm joined by special guest commentator Juan Crystal. Juan, how are we doing?
Hello, that's me. Yay! I'm feeling great. I'm excited to commentate the final map showcase of this tournament, of course. One that I didn't have the chance to see very carefully, but I have been checking the results, and so far a lot of surprises and very interesting results. So very exciting tournament, very exciting to commentate the very end of it, and to have me as a special guest, of course, an honor for me. So thank you very much. And I hope you all guys enjoy it too, right? Because it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait to reveal maps that we do have in store for you guys today. So, without further ado, let's get right into it.
So we're gonna go with the first one then. That's my time to present it, I guess. So we're gonna go with Chrono Driver Pendulums by Gekido, no other than the Lemon guy himself. More of a jump string / consistency pick, if you will, so the classic. And a very popular song here by Nekomata Led Master. One of my favorites, actually. I intended to map this at some point, but maybe a longer version of it. But this, of course, nothing like it, you can see already. A bit of a density, heavy, long anchors, and just either light jump string or some hands in between. And very, very tricky to act on OD9, 196 BPM, surely. Going to be a tricky thing to do for most of the teams remaining.
Yeah, we did have a slight bump in terms of both density and BPM. Finals level, of course, was Ikunai Borderline, hanging at about 192 BPM, as well as pretty much the absence of any hands in there. So we do get very light hand stream. You will see more in the final Ki in the back half of the map. However, there are as well, that should be mentioned, a couple of 6th bursts, similar to the Mad Hatter, if any of you guys remember that in the quarterfinals pool jump stream pick.
Absolutely. The bursts are mostly the main difficulty, I think, of this chart, although keeping accuracy on OD9 for something this dense and this quick can be very tricky, especially considering the rank limitations of this tournament. This is surely on the very high end already, and this is just the first map, so better be careful.
Oh yeah, I think that if you have been lurking around, you would see that a lot of our map pullers did have the ideology of, we can overshoot things and kind of let people deal with it. However, I think that for the most part it was like an over exaggeration. A lot of the pools or picks in this pool are just very, very slight upgrades to the compared to the finals picks, but that is going to do it for Rice 1. That was our jump stream pick, Chrono Diver, hanging at 196. A couple tricks in there to keep you guys awake, only about 2 minutes long. And as we get into it, this is going to be Rice 2. This is Huifu, I believe, Speed of Light 2, taken from their group stage, was in base rate, so we did up that a little bit, make that 1.1 instead. It does feature what I believe to be 9th bursts, so pretty tricky. It's not something you see every day, and it is very, very constant.
A classic shoegazer map, as we are used to see on this kind of pools. Definitely have some of this great entry levels, if you will. he has some, well, she has some of the greatest tech files to get into if you're just starting out. Of course, as well, one of the harder things you can find if you're like very experienced in tech stuff. And this will be more on the introductory level. This is why it is on raids as well, I imagine. And they'll be a bit more forgiving, of course. 7.5 is going to make this a bit easier to act than the jumps through pick, which of course makes sense considering the jacks, the mini jacks patterning, and overall the mixed snaps, as you mentioned earlier. The 9s are certainly not the most common of the snaps, although if you're used to play faster stuff for whatever reason, then the 9s are going to feel weird at start, but if you have the speed to control them, it's just a 1/4 snap of a different BPM, if you really will.
Yeah,
Although,
I think a lot of
it gets trickier than that.
yeah, a lot of the difficulty really does come in how constant you do have to be moving on this map, and also something that might not catch your attention the first time you really play it are really the jumps as well that also do pop up from time to time within these measures.
As you can see, this doubles, this jumps kind of break the flow of the pattern a little bit, but check that most of them are only one-handed, so that makes the pattern a little bit more cheesable if you're not too comfortable with the speed. You mostly have to be careful with those sort of hidden mini jacks that gets formed in some of the instances of the pattern. Like you could saw before on the third column, for instance, you had a 3 with a third column node before the jump and one right after the jump. That's usually the harder thing to control when it comes to this kind of maps. Players must be careful with them, although the map certainly gives you enough hints early on, as you can see those breaks filled with those type of mini jacks, although not hidden but rather isolated. If you can nail those down, I believe this could be a comfort pick for those who are well versed in Rise, although I imagine they would go for the consistent pick before this.
Yeah, and thankfully there's only really 2 main speedier sections of things. Everything else is kind of like what you see here at the end, very tame, not too much going on. So that will do it for Rise 2. That was our speed pick, Huifu, on 1.1.
And now entering into the Rise 3 department, we have Traveler, Stand Aloof by Seura, great artist. We have seen this before from Mania World Cup, a pretty nice one. And this one, a bit of a mixed pick, if I say so myself. As you can see, gets pretty techy at some points with the mini jacks and the density picking up every now and then. So quite of an all-round challenge, I think. 205 BPM, fast enough so some people may just struggle with it due to the raw speed requirement itself.
Yeah, and I think he did mention at the start of this map that it was picked in NWC, albeit at the higher difficulty of distances. I think 1.1 was used. This is going to be the lower diff of Journeys. And as you said it, this is our mixed Rise pick. There is a lot of jacks and speed to deal with throughout the map. Pretty much what you would expect from a mixed Rise pick if you have been seeing those throughout the tournament.
Oof, nasty burst over there, huh?
Oh yeah, definitely you know, a bit of a spike in difficulty there to contend with. But I mean, as long as you do practice this map full, it shouldn't come to you as a surprise. I think you should be well equipped to handle that in match, whatever comes at you. These tricky staircases into the trail, quite
yeah, going in and out between those different types of patterns are the main deal. You have very long anchors and heavy trails, and after that you have breaks, like broken patterns with a lot of mini jacks. So the main difficulty of this map certainly comes around this fact of switching between one style to another very quickly. So adaptability is one of the main things you need in order to get through this kind of things.
Yeah, and as this map,
if you will,
does finish out, again, this is kind of the Jackie and Speedy pick of this pool. And as per usual, we do have another mixed Rise in store for you guys. However, that was Rise 3. Traveler, Stand Aloof. Alright, and we can go ahead and get into the next mixed Rise pick. This is Rise 4 Supernatural. this one is going to feature a lot more streams, as well as some broken jump streams, stuff like that in between the bursts. And again, as Han Crystal said for the other map, I believe that the transitions in and out of the different Rice elements are really going to separate what makes a good player from a great player on this map.
At this point, we're mostly just dealing with, at the very least, good players into the grand final stage. I imagine most, if not all, of the players remaining are capable to hold their grounds on Rise, but it really will come down to those with the biggest expertise in this kind of things. And as you saw, they're transitioning from those slower sections into this very dumpy bursts, if you will, rather streams, I think. It's kind of tricky, especially with those hands in the middle to break the flow every now and then. Mini jacks being very hitting and subtle as well will cause, I imagine, quite a fair amount of misses, if not just normal like 200s or like 100s every once in a while as well. I can see this one being the most ignored Rise map of the pool, though. It seems to be the most challenging one in terms of like technicality, and in my experience, like players who are maybe on the lower end, if you will, compared to like Mania World Cup things, tend to struggle with this kind of more technical-ish patterns. And this could either be a good protect for those who feel the most comfortable with, or the most confident in Rise, or just a straight up ban by those who are maybe more into the long nose or the hybrids. This would be maybe the thing that I try to avoid the most.
And I really like what you said there, where it might be kind of that ignored pick in the Rise pool. I feel like some teams might be hesitant to choose this straight out the gate, if not their first, second, or third choice. They might have to really dig deep and have to find this map in the depths of the set, you know, maybe as something like a last resort pick or something like that. It is always very, very daunting to try to, you know, out physical your opponent, especially when you don't know their full capabilities, as this is the grand finals pool and you are getting to that peak physicality. Gonna have to see who scales well into the stage of the game, but that is gonna do it for Rise 4. That was the latter of our mixed Rise picks.
It's also the 8. That's not easy. Pretty challenging on its own, right? And now into right. Oh, I love this song and I love this map. This is the map by Autotelic Brown, and it's the Cyber Grind by Mega Neko. And oh boy, I remember when I was talking with Autotelic about this. It was back in December of last year, maybe earlier than that even. We were talking about maybe doing a collab at some point of a map after finishing our set of Kickback, and he mentioned that she mentioned rather that she was mapping this, and I was like, I never heard this song before, and it sounds so good. Like, it's definitely has all the elements you want to have a very, very mixed / stamina oriented chart, and this is exactly what Autotelic is great at. And honestly, she's pretty great at pretty much any Rise chart, but I love when she goes like heavy on the very, very comfortable sometimes patterns. Like, for example, this section, like it looks odd, but it fits the song perfectly, and I love that, because this song is, it's very, very well structured, and it fits the style that Autotelic likes to choose so good, so well, so nicely. And I'm just in love with this map. I just cannot tell you any more than this. It's very, very fun to play.
Yeah, it really is. This is very much approved by Autotelic Brown. We got the green light for this to be used in the Grand Finals pool. So thank you again to her for allowing us to use this map. And I mean, if you guys did not enjoy the stamina pick of last round where it was 340, well, we added 50 more seconds to your stamina pick. Though again, as Juan did say, you know, this real strain isn't present throughout all parts of the map, so it shouldn't be, you know, too daunting in terms of physicality, at least for that first half. But really, when you get into the latter side of things, you know, it really starts to take a toll on you, both, you know, physically, but as well as mentally. You start to break focus, start to make more mistakes than you think you should.
How low do you want your stamina pick to be? Yes.
Yeah, pretty much the thing we were going for. But I do think that it is quite fitting and decent bump up from the stamina pick from last pool. I will say that Flowering was kind of, an ignored pick. So hopefully some teams can really find their way on this map and start to choose the stamina pick more often.
I love those mini jacks. Of course, they're gonna be the choke point, I think, of this map, considering your stamina is already draining for half the chart already, and then having those mini jacks patterning, and then into more jump stream. And this is not a linear jump stream at all. Like, although it could be denser, obviously, but it is barely 100 at all. Like, most of the jumps are mixing both of the hands at the same time, unless you go into a more of a jump trail motion. But most of the time, they're like gapped jumps, if you will, and that can drain your stamina so much quicker, especially if you're not used to play this kind of things for this long. 190 BPM can be tricky with this density, and you can easily lose your focus at any time. And this kind of breaks, sometimes they don't help as much as they hurt you, because you're so much into the flow of the map already, so much into the flow of the song, and then you have to go into 1-2 jams trying to sharpshoot your accuracy, and as soon as the break is over, you have to go back to the streams, and it feels a bit odd to do so. Many players have dropped 200s there, even misses on those sort of transitions, and I can see that being the case on this one as well.
Yeah, time and time again, we have seen players drop at very awkward points of the map. Usually within transitions, we'll try to note that when commentating a match, but really I think Juan does put it perfectly. You do have to switch gears from trying to act these jumps as much as possible, and then transitioning into a more stream section can prove to be deadly. And as you get into this 4th minute of the map, really it's just who can hold out the longest, who can really try to play the combo game as much as possible.
The song doesn't even feel like it is this long, really. The map is really fun. You'll love it.
Yeah, and that is gonna do it for Rise 5. That was our stamina pick. Alright, and for Rise 6, as per usual, we do have the Kojak pick for you guys.
Yeah, you see a 998 plus score, then it has to be Kojak's, right?
Oh yeah, pretty much at this stage, even our replayers are, having a bit of trouble with some of the maps. However, compared to last week's map, something I did want to mention is this might feel kind of like a side grade to some of the players out here. You might notice on the bottom half of the screen that it is bumped up to 127 BPM. Last week's was 120, but our the density of this map does really is a bit toned down from last week.
Who doesn't know this song, by the way? Like, this has to be the most popular song of the pool. But yeah, this is the patterning is pretty rough on this. The density is not too bad. For the most part, it's doubles and some hands in between. But the jumps are very, very split between them. You don't have many one-hand jacks. So it's going to be pretty tricky for people who are not well versed on core jacks here to perform well. I mean, as usual, if you're burst on core jacks, you're going to destroy this chart as you will with like most core jack picks. I love as well how this skin has like extended long notes, and I find that extremely weird.
Yeah, it does look, quite odd, but I do agree that the density really isn't there, but the jumps might be a bit hard. I think a lot of our playtesters would agree that there is a lot of misbait, especially in what you would consider the more dense sections of this map. There's a lot where you can just really break focus, and as with all core jack maps, if you take one miss, many more might come to follow.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, most of the 2-note jacks are consecutive split hand jumps, so that's very, very, very difficult to hit properly. And honestly, one of the main difficulties of chord jacks just in general. So very, very interesting limit test, I'll say. It is this time lapse. We will see maybe some theoretical runes from the players on.
Oh boy. Yeah. Hopefully not though, but that is going to do it for Rice 6. Go ahead and get into Rice 7.
Oh boy, I remember this one being an SV chart at some point. At least I do. Serotonin, it is. Sakura Burst, great artist. Well known as well, featured artist. And oh my god, this was quarterfinals SVs of Mania World Cup, right? I remember that, and I hated it. But this one, obviously, not at all like it. This is not SV, this is Rice. This is very, very techy and very, very dumpy. And that's the main deal for this. Can you hit dump streams at 170 VPN? Do you have the control to get this right and to not mess up on the mini jack? That's pretty much the TLDR of the song, and it's not even that short. 2 minutes 40 is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, I think a bit of the drain time might be at the start, so I don't think it's a full 240. I could be totally wrong. However, I would like to mention that this is a custom map by Gun for this map pool, so thank you very much to Gun for mapping this. If you haven't figured it out by now, again, this is the tech pick of the map, and these snappings are just so awkward and weird. If you do take a look at it in editor, it had to be subdivided into 16ths to accurately represent the music, and geez, it is just so hard to act.
Good, my beloved. Post that gif. But yeah, when you have to use 1/16, you know it's a tech file. Very, very nasty snaps there. You need a lot of control to hit those snaps accurately. And for the most part, like, without color snapping, this is also much harder to read. So you have to be very careful. Those patterns like that you just saw that are entirely focused on 3 columns, that one being second, third, and fourth, are very, very easy to mess up. Very easy to drop a combo there, and those trails are nasty too, so you have to be very, very careful. I imagine most players should try to aim to get the FCs on this rather than sharpshoot the accuracy too much, because on maps like this that are very dumpy and very quick and require so much control, you might go too light-handed into one of these streams and therefore causing some misses due to the inputs not being registered on the keyboard. That's like the main reason why these tech files are so hard to full combo if you're sharpshooting for accuracy.
Yeah, quite a light ending to finish it off, thankfully. But that is going to do it for the Rice section of the pool. So we can go ahead and get into the LNs.
Oh boy. This is yours.
Yeah. So this is a custom map by Pataraj, so thank you very much to Pataraj for providing us this map, and this is the wildcard / coordination pick. This is Volley.
Oh boy, this looks so much weirder with the skin. I have troubles reading this, but despite that, I'll try my best to analyze this on the fly, as this is a custom, I haven't seen it before. But as it stands, very, very tricky coordination patterns for the most part. You have to, like, this isn't quite Imbus, but it's probably as close as Imbus as it gets without getting too much into density. There are so many patterns or so many instances of notes that you have to be holding all at the same time. Thankfully, you don't have many instances where you have to release blocks of notes that are being held at the same time on different times. So for the release timing, this is fairly trivial, but the coordination aspect is certainly very, very deadly. As you can see, it's very easy to just misread any of these patterns and end up in a chain of misses that is very hard to recover from. Mostly because the map lacks quite a bit of density too. Usually when you have big density on charts like this, it guides you through it, and therefore it plays a little bit easier. But in this case, the density is spread out in a way that is a bit confusing to hit, and therefore can be very, very tricky to act. That section right there, that ending is gonna get so many players on on their nerves for sure.
Oh yeah, in-match nerves will definitely claim a couple of souls on this one, but that is gonna do it for LN1. That was a custom by Pataraj.
Thank you, Patu. Oh, I wonder who did this map. Huh? Oh, this is my map. Yay! Yeah, this is Fleeting Lullaby by Ado from the movie of One Piece, and oh boy, do I love this artist. And this is the release-oriented pick, of course, if you were wondering, as it is usual for myself. And I guess I can summarize this as good luck, because it's very hard. It's OD8, although it's supposed to be OD7. That will be changed after the showcase, I think, or maybe not. Who knows?
Yeah, we won't try to kill the players too hard on this map. We will change it right after showcase, get that 2 OD7 as was intended. But I mean, Juan, you know, you are the master of timing H word.
Oh boy.
I mean, I guess this could really be classified as timing heck, right?
Oh, kind of, I think, yeah. The snaps are all over the place on this map, though. You can see it's mostly based on 1/3, and the releases are not, like, jointed. They are very, very disjointed, and that makes it so you can hit many random 200s if you're not paying a lot of attention, especially considering the low BPM. And it's mostly focusing on the vocals, too, so it's even harder to follow, as is usual from my timing H series, I guess. And into the solo? Oh, boy.
We do have a couple of funny sections coming up that we'll have to point out.
Yeah, here you will expect 1/3, but Ado's voice picks up and goes a bit faster, and you have to mix it between 1/4 and 1/3, even 1/6 at some point. So it's very, very tricky to hit the snaps properly. And it gets a bit polyrhythm as well with the drums in the middle. So, but after you're done with the solo, most of the rest of the chart is fairly similar to what we saw on the intro, and doesn't get much trickier than that until we see the ending, of course, which is the heaviest release part, I think, of the entire chart.
You know, I really
stands.
That the strain in that little solo by Ado, and especially the Rice portions, just like, you know, snuck in there, can really trip up players. I think that, you know, they might find themselves not being able to recognize and hit the jacks instantaneously, might grab a bad judgment or even a combo break at worst.
Of course, but if those jacks were a bit of an introduction as we're entering to the very last vid, this last transition is mostly just a 2-1/3. But after this last verse is over, we enter into the very last vid with mini jacks, doubles, triples, and heavy releases. This is the climax of the song, and good luck to all the players when you get there. You need to feel the song or you will choke. That's how it is.
Oh yeah, you can see just so much being thrown at you in this portion. You are just constantly releasing at different timings. Really hard to coordinate a very, very good run on this, but if you can pull this off, you will be rewarded in kind. So that's gonna wrap it up for LN2. That was custom by Juan Crystal. Thank you very much to Juan for providing us with this map.
Oh, please. I hope it gets played at least.
Oh yeah, definitely. And with that, we can go on to LN3. And here we go. This is a mint map. This is Veriquitas Chat Purdue. Yeah, quite a light start. This is the density LN for you guys, and you can see with these piano runs, this is, you know, very much kind of like a standard density map. However, I think one thing that will trick players up is kind of those, you know, staggered releases.
Oh, absolutely. This is fairly constant for the most part, but you have a lot of this kind of patterns that are pretty heavy to act. Like, of course, you have 1/3 now, so it's even easier to, rather not easier, harder to coordinate properly, to swap between a time signature and another. But for the most part, this 1/3 section is fairly constant. You don't have many disjointed releases, as you saw before. Kind of like that interlicer pattern, if you will, of transitioning from a trill with heavy shields. But in this case, once you get through the 1/3, it's mostly just following the piano with some reverse shields every now and then, which are hard to hit.
I think the 1/3 should be given quite the shout out because I feel like a lot of players are just not familiar at this level with dealing with those. So I think that the MA and keeping the 200s to a minimum at that section should really be accounted for. And in this section here, you know, obviously you do get, yeah, you do get, you know, the density wall thrown at you. You know, there's a lot to deal with.
You know, the pattern does it really well because it's tricky to read and you expect it to be full 1/4, but there are some breaks and some gaps in between, and that's what makes this map so much trickier to hit properly. Because if you knew, at least in your mind, that it was fully 1/4, then you can read it in a way that you know a note has to be there, and therefore with intuition hit the pattern properly. But that's not the case in this one. You have a lot of gaps that you have to be mindful and careful with. So definitely a tricky choice here.
Yeah, very, very tricky. We're gonna have to see, you know, how much representation this is gonna get within these last 2 matches. But that is gonna do it for LN3. Only one more LN map to show you guys.
LN4, it is Marginal Frontier. This is a map by Eclipse. This is the grand adventure that we're gonna see for the closure of the LN maps in this tournament. And this is the wildcard pick, so good luck with it. This is gonna be very, very tricky all round because you see those quads, those are going to repeat themselves quite a lot through this. And they are very, very tricky to release every single one of them on a different release timing. So not just that, you have to mix that up with a lot of bursty, different patternings, and quite the complete challenge, I'll say. It has pretty much everything we saw on the first 3 picks, all condensed in a single one to close it all.
Yeah, and really the bursty patterns should be watched out for when you are playing through this map, but I really do think that the run killer in match for you guys are going to be those coordination, those coordination sections that we will see coming up pretty shortly. You get, some very slight inverse here, but it'll ramp up once again very soon.
This sounds so much like an RPG.
Reminds me of a Pokemon music.
Oh, Pokemon. Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. That's true.
And there's the coordination I was talking about. If you miss here, and at such an important point, this is about halfway through the map, maybe a third left, there's not a lot of time for you to get back that combo.
This is a bit of a density section as well, but some tricky disjointed releases. It's not quite like your average density pick, rather. Most of the releases are all on different time signatures, so it's very, very tricky to coordinate properly. Although the snaps are very consistent on 1/4, so it's going to help out at least some bits to hit properly. Oh no, boy, it picks up fairly much in this very last section. Oh boy, that's rough. That ending might just decide matches.
Yeah, that LN, inverse jack to finish it off could be possibly a run clear. Might pivot a point over to someone, but we'll have to see for that. As long as you guys practice the pool, I don't think it should be too much of a problem. But regardless, that was our LN section for the Grand Finals map pool. We can go into our final one besides TV, the hybrid picks.
All right, so for hybrids, I imagine this is your turn.
Yep, so this is going to be tech brand new type. This is hybrid 1, and this is going to be the LN leaning side of things. A lot of the main difficulty in this map is going to be found within the LNs. There's not too much going on in terms of rise. There's a very light hand stream section going on at 202 BPM, as you see down below. Other than that, Nothing else besides a couple of jacks and a couple of like rolls.
Gas and tack. I mean, okay. So hybrid, this pick I have not seen before, but as I can see right now, very bursty and challenging in terms of the LNs. Main difficulty so far, it seems like it's gonna be transitioning through between this bursty rise with intrusive LN in the middle. If you are capable to hold your ground through these different skill sets being combined at the same time, then you should mostly be fine. The LNs are fairly isolated through the rise patterning, but you also have some minor LN transitions, pseudo impers, if you will. So really testing your grounds on the LN department. You can't just be a rise player that completely obliterates this flowy streams that are happening right now. If you don't have the LN capabilities to hit those sort of inverses, you will struggle quite a bit with this. You may be able to act the rest, but a player who can combo through this will easily outscore you if you miss on the SLNs.
Oh man, and those quads can prove to be very deadly if you do drop, a quad of 200s, really bring down that AC. I do like what you said where the LNs during the right sections are very intrusive. I think that is a incredibly good way to put it, and especially when you get into the LN sections, they are quite hard. This LN, like Schlong Jack section, has killed so many runs for me. You guys do have to practice this one and watch out for that. Hopefully we kind of see what happens and if teams do end up liking this map enough to be picked, or if it's going to be, left to the wayside and ignored.
Oh, those releases are fairly nasty as well. Those transitions were pretty tricky, and those reversios were also really hard. It's very easy to pre-release those because you want to staccato them, and that's not how they work. You're gonna hit 200s there if you're not able to control it. And now you have burst as well with an ending burst. Okay, that's pretty tricky. Very cheeky. Good stuff. Really testing all your grounds here. You have to be a pretty good all-rounder to hit every pattern here if you want to succeed. Very nice challenge.
Yeah, definitely very challenging hybrid to start us off with. That was Hybrid 1, the LN leaning hybrid.
Oh boy. It's time for 7 now. It's another map about to dash. Why did 7 eat 9? I need to know. Nice replay name. But this will be our balanced hybrid, I think, if you will. A bit of everything, really. This very quick snaps, very fast map overall, 304 VPM. So very tricky to control right out of the gates, really. The snaps here are 1-2 for the most part, so it doesn't feel as fast, but it certainly feels weird. Like 152 VPM is not a VPM that most players are used to play denser jump streams. And if you combine that with eventual 1-4s and intrusive LNs, this is just a nightmare all over the place. If you're not able to control the speed, you're gonna suffer quite a bit.
Yeah, exactly. And this was, I believe, used in MWC. I'm not sure which edition, Juan, if you know off the top of your head.
Oh, I wouldn't know, but this sounds like maybe 2020? No, 2021, I think, but I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I'm confirming in the chat it was used in the 2021 edition. As you guys can see, a lot of staggered starts, I would say, and then some rice to fill you in. A lot of grace as well, used sparingly throughout the map with the piano. It can be quite difficult.
Yeah, those grace jacks, if you will, kind of like wrist jacks, if you will, those are heavy and are tricky to hit, 304 BPM, and that is no joke. Even I think I will struggle with those.
Oh yeah, and that trill right there, and still having to keep up after, and have, it's so physical. A lot thrown at you in this last section here. Really is a Kiai that you do have to duel with.
Wow.
Extremely hard. But that is gonna...
It's not just the trills, really. Like, the fact that you have to transition out of the trills into a lens, so challenging.
Totally agree with you right there. That is gonna do it for Hybrid 2, that was our more balanced pick.
7777. Oh
And-
my god, and the Germ up.
Yeah. To cap things off for our regular pool, we are gonna end it with an Unjoy map. This is Legend of Mytho Miwa. And this is our more rice-leaning map.
Stage 4, I wonder where this was from.
I'm not sure too much myself as it is not in the map description. However, you guys will immediately see that things are quite fast-paced to start with. If you look down below, it is 220 BPM, so these jacks are at 110. And then when we do get into the more rice-heavy sections, especially when you are hitting jump stream or something of that nature, 220 is no number to sneeze at.
Oh, absolutely not. Especially considering the jump stream pick was like 190 something, 196. So if you have 220 in the hybrid section and you have some jump stream, then it's going to be very heavy. Some bit of release time is here being tested properly. And after we are done with these transitions of the piano, I feel we're going to get into the main course of this. And wow, very heavy core jack usage as we see right here, 110 BPM. Very long ankles as well. And if I know songs myself, this will rock up into jumps. And there it is, exactly as I predicted. The song just builds up and transitions into a heavy jump string here with very heavy ankles now. And split jump string, if you will, as well. So very tricky to hack.
Oh yeah, that transition is extremely hard. What I do like about this map is the isolation of the LN difficulty to rice difficulty. We did see about halfway in, that LN section, we do get it here again. It's inverse to cap things off, but really the bulk of it is made up by like so many rice ideas thrown at you at such a fast pace as well.
Absolutely, you worded it perfectly there. The isolation of the skill sets here is the key factor. You have to be good at both of the things, not of the combination of it, but both of the things isolated. So players that use skins, for instance, or LNs might have difficulties on this, as it will maybe not want to swap from one skin to another, considering how isolated the skill sets are. But I'm going to stop talking about this, because we have a tiebreaker to present, and I think it's only fitting that you, the host, are the one who introduces it.
Oh yeah, and can't wait to show you guys what we have been cooking up throughout. This is gonna be the grand finals tiebreaker. This is Alter Strife, custom map by Saimitsu, but not only by Saimitsu. This was also mapped by Alex Dunk, Rule Blazing, Ballistic Bubba, and Pataraj as well.
After Strife. Well, we'll see. This is certainly the first time I'm seeing this. Let's see if this is a frozen controversy of the universe, as they call it. I like the vocals so far, at least.
Yeah, super tame, build up to the song, a lot of LNs to keep you busy. And if you guys do remember Galaxy Fragmentation, I did feel like there was a lot of rice difficulty in that map, but not so much for the LN. So I think you'll see more in the Kiais how nasty it can really get when it comes to LN difficulty.
Oh boy, it has all the tiebreaker vibes here, starting with a very nice vocal section into a very epic build-up, and now into heavy breakcore-ish spots with very tricky mini jacks. Oh boy, this is so much harder than everything we saw so far in the pool.
Yeah, and those LNs pretty much looking like triangles at this point. Very tricky patterns to deal with. And this is at 180, so these jacks are extremely fast. 180 jacks are nothing like we've seen yet in this tournament. And I believe there are a couple of BPM changes as well. It might, I think, get faster as we progress through the song, just to add an extra layer of difficulty.
You have this nice little jump stream to transition. It's only 16 BPM slower than the actual jump stream pick, so don't think this is sort of a break really, because it's not that much of a break. This is the actual break of the song, however. But after this, I can only imagine it picking up a bit harder than before. And as you said, if there are BPM changes, this may be the point where it happens.
Yeah, you'll see
oh,
here.
those bursts.
I want to say this is Saimitsu's part. A lot of bursts in this Ki. And oh man, Grace LN comes into play along with Grace Rice.
Oh, and the Grace LNs also have release timings that are very, very tricky to hit. You see there's a miss. Oh boy, the lens are disgustingly hard to hit. You need to be very, very well versed. Those are staircase gaps between the long notes. That is the hardest type of releases you can have. So you have to be very, very careful to hit those properly. And not just that, but you also have very, very tricky rise in between. So quite a hybrid test over there, as you saw before. And this is not even halfway through. This is just going to get more and more intense as we progress.
Yeah, we did have one break at about a third of the way in where you could see your opponent's score, just a bit to add to the nerves if any of these teams do get to this point in the tournament. And I mean, I can only imagine what might be going through players' heads if they go through grand finals and have to play a tiebreaker.
Oh, of course, like it's not just being a tiebreaker, which is already stressful enough, but the fact that it's on grand finals, it could be the very last song, the very last map that is played on the entire tournament. I can only imagine the nerves. I myself played on a grand finals tiebreaker, and I'm telling you, it is nerve-wracking, but you're fired up at this point. If you get here, you're just gonna give it your all. It is the highest excitement that you can ever feel on a tournament, I feel, in just a grand finals tiebreaker. Like, what else can you ask for? You're playing for good matches, you get the tiebreaker on the very last stage. That's just like a dream come true.
100%. And as this music picks up, I feel like I should really say that as a player, playing in this, what you should really be focusing on is hanging on to combo as much as possible. Really, it's about holding on as long as you can. You are hanging by a thread at this point in the game.
Good luck holding combo through this. Oh my, hand into mini jacks. That's really, really hard to combo through.
Yeah. And it goes on for so long as well into that crazy burst, and then we have a very awkward, I guess, jump stream section with mini jacks, sprinkled in, if only to make your life that much harder.
Oh boy, and you have also somewhat intrusive LNs as well in the middle. This sort of Dorito patterns, if you will, staircases, certainly confusing to read, and with sprint jump trills as well. Everything being thrown at you, and now into a full LN section, proper hell, as we get into the last quarter of the map. And oh boy, if you can hold through this, you deserve to be champion, because this is a hard thing to hit out, like fully. Not just the burst on the LNs, but burst with rise in the middle. Everything thrown at you, no breaks whatsoever. Mini jacks, coordination, releases, density, everything you want of the LN department thrown at you. And not just that, but with rise in between. For the final climax of the song, of the very last one, you get to see. I guess this was truly up of the standards of a controversy of the universe, if you will.
Oh, totally. Very controversial. You're gonna have to see how the players do, because the difficulty is there. You guys asked for it, and we have provided. Only the best players can get out of this tournament alive and be crowned the Cold Open Cup king. So it is only rightful that you guys do have to go through the hardest test with this tiebreaker if you do get to this point.
Oh, it's never over. I thought it was over like 3 times. Don't. Yeah, be careful with that as well.
Yeah, 2 whole fake outs as well at the end of it, just to make sure that you guys did play through it, or at least, consume this information in the showcase. But with that tiebreaker done, that is going to be it for us. That was the end of the grand final showcase for Cold Open Cup. There are only, again, 3 teams left in the tournament, and these are the maps that they are going to have to deal with this weekend.
Well, I can only wish good luck to those 3 teams remaining. You surely need to practice a lot because the pools are getting pretty intense. And if you are hoping to get into tiebreaker, then you better train it because it looks hard AF. It's very tricky. Oh boy. I loved it though. I cannot wait to play it. I think I like after the showcase is over, whenever I have the time to do so, I'll be playing that tiebreaker. It looked very fun.
Yeah, very much in love with this map pool. But that will do it for us. Thank you to everyone for watching. Not only that, but just all of the players in general for playing in this tournament. We hope you guys did enjoy this experience as really just an introduction into the tournament scene, if you will. But regardless, we do have to wrap this up, so we will have the schedules available for the final 3 teams. We'll actually probably make threads for you guys. And other than that, good luck to all the players left in the tournament.